And we're having this little press conference to highlight what has going on down in New York City. But again, something that my office highlighted back in January about the inequality of our justice system. And you know, what really bothers me the most when I was reading the story about Kaylee Browder is that the fact that he spent 1,000 days in jail, 1,000 days, without going in front of a criminal justice system. And you know, to me, what bothers me the most about this is that I spent 18 months of my life halfway around this world fighting a dictatorship, fighting for people's rights not to be in prison, for not being prosecuted, just being thrown in prison because they didn't like the way they looked or they didn't like their beliefs. And here in our own country, we have some kid, 16-year-old young gentleman, get accused of taking a backpack in 2010 and spent 3 years in prison. 3 years, 2 years of which was in confinement. So that alters your mental state of mind when you come out. And he would never admit that he was guilty of this crime. And his prosecutor, and we talked about this 18B, and that's why we have Judge Rosen here on staff, we talked about this back in January because we said this is the problem with the system. Our 18B attorneys are overwhelmed, overworked, and not enough funding. And we've called on the state of New York to fund this program so people get fair representation. I'm saddened as county executive to stand here again today and basically saying here in this great country of ours that I take so much pride in when I put my uniform on, that we have this young gentleman that basically went to jail for 1,000 days, comes out and commits suicide. How's that happen? How many times do we have to have press conferences? How many times do we have to talk about the justice system until something is done?
The bottom line is that we need to do something and get these kids, and that's what they are, they're kids, over to where they can get better services in the family court system, where they'd have probation and they'd have counselors and they'd have psychologists. We don't have that. We're a correctional facility for adults, and that's the bottom line. But to have 18 of them sitting within our walls as of this morning is kind of sad for a county our size. And they're not boarders, they're actually Albany County residents. So I support Raise the Age. We've been all around the state, we've been up to the governor's office. I know that there's a lot of people that have issues with it, but again, it's about trying to correct the behavior and get them the help they need to live a healthy, productive life, and they're not going to get that within our walls at the county jail.
The county taxpayers cannot continue to fund proper criminal legal services for indigents accused of crime indefinitely in a society that has seemed to embrace the concept of mass incarceration for economically disadvantaged and nonviolent situations, highlighted in New York. One thing that I could add to the county executive's comments is that not for 1 minute do we want to forget the young man who wasn't even accused of stealing a backpack. It was suspicion of stealing a backpack, completely nonviolent, 2 years in solitary confinement, 3 years before release, because the family couldn't get several $100s together for bail.
And I'm here today to urge the governor of our state, Governor Cuomo, to go even further than that and forcefully act to prevent 16 and 17-year-olds, children, they are children, from being treated as adults in our criminal justice system. Because our criminal justice system has failed, it really is a failed, toxic system. And it's destructive to adults, so I don't know why we think it won't be destructive to children. And we believe that juvenile treatment facilities are more effective in preventing future crime than certainly adult prisons. Now, earlier this year, right here in Albany, Marquise Dixon another black male, was sentenced in Albany County Court to up to 9 years in prison for stealing a pair of sneakers. Now, Marquise was 16 at the time of his crime. And at his adult prison, wherever he is right now, and all of the people who are his age group, who are in the system, will be at greater risk of major injury because of their age. Juveniles are 5 times more likely to be sexually assaulted in prisons, and they are 50% more likely to be attacked with a weapon in prison than in juvenile facility. Youth in adult prisons are 8 times more likely to commit suicide. And certainly we see with Khalif Browder, that was the case. And 75% of all deaths of youth under the age of 18 in adult jails are due to suicide.